what I think drives anxiety on more and more is, that belief. And I think I could really term the word anxiety as being the same as belief. Anxiety and belief, I think, go hand in hand. They are one and the same thing. Every day you live your life feeling like you're out of control and feeling the disassociativeness to the activities you're doing and all those kinds of things, uh, really is being driven on by your lack of belief that you are healthy and fit, and that nothing bad is going to necessarily happen. You always hear about anxiety being about being about the whole doom and gloom kind of, producing all these doom and gloom kind of beliefs in place, beliefs. And those doom and gloom kind of sensations you feel are a manifestation of the belief structure you have in place. Imagine like right now, I want you to envision this right now. Imagine that you don't believe that there's anything wrong. I don't mean to sound like every other person giving me this kind of advice. I just want you to hear it from me. That's what I want you to do. I want you to think for a second. Go back through your head or write it down on a notepad. The beliefs that you have in place right now about yourself, about what is being internalized inside you. I want you to be able to look inwardly and just see, what do I believe right now about myself that is causing this anxiety to drive on further and further? That is causing me to snowball and go down in its downward spiral further and further. And you might come to some kind of epiphany or some kind of realization that actually you do have a belief system in place. That's gonna be your first surprise. That's gonna be your first realization, and then your second realization is gonna hit you, going, these beliefs that I have in place is something negative, something inherently negative and worrisome. And I want you to look at each belief you have about what else could, virtually be wrong with you. What else could potentially be wrong with you? Sorry, better way of terming it. And I want you to question those beliefs, and I want you to look at the inconsistencies and I want you to look at the inconsistencies and the faults in those beliefs. See where those beliefs are going wrong. So once you've done that, you're going to realize that, hey, actually, these beliefs are pretty illogical. They don't seem to make sense to me. And you're gonna, you probably, I don't know, like you're probably living your life thinking you've got a heart attack or multiple sclerosis, or you've got diabetes, or you've got a brain tumor, or you've got, retinal detachment, or you've got cancer in some way, shape, or form. And I think the reason why you believe so hard about there being an answer different to anxiety is because you are not comfortable and you are not secure enough about that answer of anxiety. like you also don't feel comfortable with being told you have anxiety when this the sensations persist so often, so much, and and so that kind of drags you into a belief structure about there being something medically and physically wrong with you besides anxiety. And that's going to bring up all sorts of things like depression and, you know, and all those kinds of things. And, you're going to start getting all those negative thoughts and negative connotations to life, and everything's going to spiral down and everything's going to go to shit. So, to stop yourself from that whole process, I want you to question those beliefs you have in place, look at their pitfalls and their inconsistencies, because right now you don't believe that you have anxiety, and instead you believe there is something else wrong. And it's not until you look at everything logically, and it isn't until you start remembering all those other times that the answer's always been anxiety, that you begin to feel more comfortable with the answer being anxiety. So keep that up. And as I said, nothing in this world is going to put a proper belief structure in place for you besides yourself. Not even the most intelligent, up-to-date, doctor or neurologist or cardiologist or, it's no one is going to be able to reassure you enough. And that's the point I'm trying to make. No one is going to be able to reassure you enough. And you're gonna like keep checking on yourself and noticing all these kind of like bits and pieces of information that might prove your point to it, the answer being other than anxiety. But let me tell you right now, if you are doing something, say, like if you're seeing your heart racing like all the time, whenever you're doing your day-to-day stuff and your heart is racing, you might have a heart check or whatever, and you check your beats per minute, your pulse, and it looks high. Well, you're only ever going to do that, perform that activity, only when there's something wrong, and it's always going to be a result that is scary to you. And what I like to call this is cherry picking. You're cherry picking the information, unless you are determined to find that answer. You're determined to find that answer, that it's not anxiety. So long as you're determined to pursue this own journey for yourself to try to find that answer other than anxiety, then you have to be fully committed. You need to bring up a spreadsheet, and you need to record all these statistics and all this information so that you can hand that back to your doctor and say, okay, what do you think of this? Don't start cherry picking information unless only start really looking at yourself if you're serious about it. But when it comes to that time where your doctor reassures you again after all those statistics and information that nothing is wrong, then something new is going to set you off again. You're going to go back into that cycle again, and it's a positive feedback loop. And the more you invest in those worries, then the more it feeds into that positive feedback loop. And you may not notice it right now, but you are living, every single. You may not notice it right now, but you are actually worrying. And you might actually look at the text. You might look at textbook definition of anxiety. Constantly on edge, or nervous, or or worrying all the time. Well, sure, you may actually be living every day of your life thinking that you're not doing that. That you're always on the hunt for that something. That something that is causing your heart to beat fast, or you're sweating, or your indigestion, and things like that. And so you are going to be, you're going to be investing a lot into that, into trying to find that answer. But every single time this is where you need to cut that loop, that feedback loop, right? So every single time, you're about every single time you feel an unwelcome or a horrible sensation in your body, and you start to begin that journey, that's at the time where you need to realize that you are actually worrying, and you don't realize you're worrying, but you are. And you might say all the time that these sensations keep happening outside of my control. Well, I'll tell you right now, like, no one is ever perfect. Everyone has a particular, problem. Not every single, human body is going to function the same way. There is always going to be inconsistencies and things happening in every single person's body day to day. But what this all comes down to is, whether you have an exaggerated thought about those sensations, and you might behave or act in a exaggerated manner and about those sensations. And really what I think is that you need to cut yourself off and bring yourself back to that power of belief, and say to yourself, okay, so this is my belief structure. I'm going to change this and this and this about my belief structure. So if it's something like, your heart's racing and everything like that, you're going to say to yourself, okay, I've been checked out by numerous, doctors. I've been checked out by a cardiologist, and I've been told there's been nothing wrong. And these are people who are qualified and work in, worked in this medical field for a long time and have PhDs. And you're going to say to yourself, okay, well, that's one belief where I don't believe in those doctors, so I'm going to change my belief to say, hey, I'm actually all right. I'm actually perfectly fine. Next belief could be maybe like, you're about to have a heart attack, here and there because, you've got chest pains, or you feel your heart flip-flopping inside your chest. You're going to change that belief and say, hey, as per the above, I have still been checked out, and I have a completely healthy heart. If you have a high heart rate when you're just doing really small activities, just say to yourself, well, am I physically active? Am I, am I going out and putting my body under the stress of exercise to condition my heart to be more healthy? If that answer is no, then, well, there's, one problem, already, so you need to always be exercising and things like that. So really, like, that was a little bit of a rant, but I really just wanted to let you know that, you need that belief structure in place. One other thing I might add is that, you are there is absolutely no way you should be diagnosing yourself unless you have yourself been through, the study of, medicine and getting a PhD and things like that. Unless you have put yourself through that work. There's doctors who study for 6 or 8 years or something like that to get that degree, to become a surgeon or a doctor or a general practitioner or whatever. Unless you've put yourself through that, you are in no position to diagnose yourself. It just should not happen. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry, but when you have been reassured time and time and time again from these sorts of people, numerous different people, you want to accept that you've been given the proper diagnosis, and if you really want to get better, you need to keep on exercising and keep on going down the proper path to to becoming better. And you need to go down a proper path of treatment. Don't be afraid of if things are so bad, accepting medication or talking to someone or therapy, because I can guarantee you right now that the reason why you feel the way you do right now is because of belief. And I think that's so goddamn important. I guess that's really about it. This video's gone pretty long. I thank you for putting up with everything, and just make sure that let's just summarize. Make sure let me just have a drink of water first. Make sure you're not cherry picking information that will satisfy your belief of something else being wrong and send you into that positive feedback loop again and again, and cause that cycle again and again and again. Make sure you're exercising. Whenever I find my heart is like palpitating, or I've got I have awareness of my heart beating, and it feels like it's just gonna stop, or I feel it's pounding hard, or and I feel a bit jittery or whatever, I actually just put some earplugs in. I put on Tony Robbins, so I actually put Tony Robbins in my ears, and I go for a walk around the block for about half an hour, and my mind just goes elsewhere, and I'm just letting Tony Robbins, motivational speaker, talk back to me all the time, and about taking control of your life, and finding that passion. So exercise, distract your mind, and don't cherry pick your information. Make sure you're listening to people who are actually, make sure you're taking that advice seriously from medical practitioners. That you accept the diagnosis. You need to accept the diagnosis. And lastly, don't diagnose yourself. You're in no position to do that. You're not experienced to diagnose yourself. Sure, you might, you can look on the internet about, different ways you're feeling, but don't attach yourself to a specific diagnosis. Maybe there's someone with a bit of advice. Just make that answer of getting over your anxiety and your depression. They have a simple answer for that, but don't start looking at syndromes and diseases and cancers and things like that, because you don't have it. Simply put. So yeah, that just basically sums up the entire video. Thanks for watching, and have a good day, guys. Catch up. Hey, something else that I just kind of thought about before uploading the video.
why isn't anxiety a good enough answer for you? Uh, I'm not asking you that question. Um, I want you to answer that question yourself. Uh, and as I said, um, everyone's bodies are different. Everyone's going to feel different sensations in their body, and you know, the body is a closed off system and it's very, very dynamic. Cells are replacing all the time, and different things are going on all the time inside your body. So you're not always going to feel perfect all the time. It's a very dynamic system, your body is, and that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life. So again, ask yourself, why isn't anxiety a good enough answer for you? All right, catch ya.